I just want to mention it's a big chizuk to see people who are going through exams right now and coming to the Beis Medrash. I think that you'll be able to answer in the Yem Adin Kavat Itim L'Torah. And we say, you'll be able to say, yes, I had exams, and nevertheless I came into the Beis Medrash. Because that's a kfiyas. Another joke, they say Kavata Torah Le'itim or Kavata Itim L'Torah. Then I'm going to say Kavata Torah Le'itim, where you kaveh Torah when you have time. Kavata Itim L'Torah, there has to be a set time every night or every day where a person is b'yachad for learning, no matter what. Okay. We spoke yesterday, when do we make a bracha on Adlakas Neiros? When do we make a bracha on one night's Neiros? We said, there's a machlokes Shulchan Aruch and Ramah. Shulchan Aruch learns that she makes the bracha before she lights, like every other mitzvah in the Torah, that it's over lasiyas and you do it before, you make the bracha before you do it. Adlakas Neiros, Otod Davar, it's the same thing. According to the Ramah, you make the bracha after you light. The reason being, because once you make a bracha, you're mekabel Shabbos, and you can't do malach anymore. So if you should make the bracha beforehand, you can't light. We spoke about Yontiv. What about Yontiv? Do we say on Yontiv, a woman technically could make a bracha, she's mekabel Yontiv, but you could light on Yontiv as well. You don't have to refrain from lighting on Yontiv. You can't be matlik and ish chadosh, you can't light a new fire, but from fire to fire you can light. So perhaps there she should make her bracha beforehand because the Kabbalah's Yontiv doesn't interfere with the Hadlakas Neiros. And we brought the machlokes Achronim. The Magen Avraham says loy plug, and the Noda B'Yehuda, the Dogel Mervavo, the Chai Adam, other Achronim, and the Mishnah Berurah seems to accept this opinion, this view, that on Yontiv a woman should make the bracha first and then light. But if your minig is, if your mother's minig is loy plug, of course, Yesh Al Mi Lismach, everyone you speak to has a different minig. Now, but a man is not mekabel Shabbos until Mizmer Shir L'Yom HaShabbos, until he actually says Mizmer Shir L'Yom HaShabbos, right before Baruch Hu, that's when he's mekabel Shabbos. So a man should always make a bracha before he lights, unlike a woman that makes a bracha afterwards, because the minig of women is to be mekabel Shabbos with the bracha, so she should make after she lights, she make a bracha. But men, the minig, the accepted minig is that men are mekabel Shabbos not when the woman is mekabel Shabbos. Men are mekabel Shabbos much later. Therefore, a man, if he lights, he should preferably make the bracha first, like every other mitzvah, and then light. We left off with a kasha yesterday. The kasha was that the mechaber paskins that once you have light in the room, if let's say a bunch of women, very common in a hotel, or family gets together and everybody lights their set of candles, their shomer v'zachar. So you have one woman that lit already. According to the mechaber, the second woman that lights should not make a bracha because there's already oil in the house. There's already a kavod Shabbos, an oinik Shabbos. There's no svara of shloi koshel be'etz over Evan, and therefore you should not make a bracha. The second woman who lights after there's already lit candles in the room should not make a bracha. That's the mechaber's shita. That you don't make a bracha on tesefes oil. And the Ramah argues. But we ask that nowadays, when you have electricity and you have lights shining bright in the room, the candles are hardly noticed. And therefore, one, l'chayra, according to the mechaber, should not make a bracha. If she lights in a room that there's electricity, she has already lights shining bright, she shouldn't make a bracha on the candles because it's tesefes oil. According to the mechaber, you don't make a bracha on tesefes oil. And even according to the Rabbi we mentioned, that you do make a bracha on tesefes oil, that's only if there's a legitimate amount of tesefes oil. But if it's only a candle in the corner of the room which you barely notice, and it doesn't add a significant amount of light, then of course, according to the Ramah, you also should not make a bracha on that. So the question is twofold. Bein l'sfardim, bein according to the mechaber, and bein l'ashkenazim according to the Ramah, how do we make a bracha? How does a woman make a bracha when she lights in a perfectly lit room, already lit room, how does she make a bracha on those candles that she lights? That's the shayla. Anyone have any suggestions before I suggest something? Okay. So I want to read to you a Shulchan Aruch and a Mishnah Berurah. It's a real problem. I want to read to you a Shulchan Aruch and a Mishnah Berurah, and we'll try to work it out. Shulchan Aruch is like this. It's Simon Reish Samach Gimel, and Sif Tes. Mishnah Berurah speaks about people that light in the house and then they go eat elsewhere. They go eat in the garden, in the chutzner, and by the time they come back inside, the candles are out. So the Mishnah Berurah says, the Chaber says, the bracha levatol, because they didn't benefit from the candles. They didn't have any pleasure from the light they lit, because what happened? They lit before Shabbos, it was still light outside. Then they went to eat the chutzner. Then they come back inside later on after the Suda, and the candles are out. So they didn't have any hanoah. The halach is you have to have hanoah from Neir Shabbos. So because they didn't have a hanoah from Neir Shabbos, it's a bracha levatol. Okay, so the Mishnah Berurah comes along. Mishnah Berurah says like this. It sounds like from the Shulchan Aruch, it's a dik of the Mishnah Berurah. The Chafetz Chaim makes this dik. It sounds like from the Shulchan Aruch that it's only if you light in the house and you go eat b'chatzir. And by the time you come back, the candles are out. But what if you light in the house and you stay in the house and you eat in the house? And by the time it gets dark, the candles are out. So again, you didn't really have a significant amount of pleasure from those candles because you lit it while it was daylight outside. It was still day. It was Erev Shabbos. And the neiros weren't too long. Right? They weren't long neiros. And it wasn't doilik ad alayla. It wasn't doilik until at night. So basically, by the time nightfall arrived, the candles were out, and you had no hanoah from the candles because when you ate the Suda, it was still light outside. And when you lit the candle, it was still light outside. Mishnah Berurah says, it sounds from the Mechaber that would be okay. Because the Mechaber says, because you went to eat in the chutzner, that's the problem. But it sounds like if you stay in the house, there's no problem, even if you're not actually having a hanoah from the candles. And the Mishnah Berurah says, why? According to the Mechaber, the question is, according to the Mechaber, Tesefes Oyer, you don't make a bracha on. We just spoke that if two women light candles in the same room according to the Mechaber, the first woman makes a bracha, the second woman doesn't make a bracha. It's only Tesefes Oyer. So why should this be any different? Why, if there's daylight, why if the sun is shining and she lights candles and she's never going to benefit from those candles on its own because by the time nightfall arrives, the candles are out. Why does she make a bracha? It's not a bracha levatol. So I want to listen to Lashon Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says like this. Mashma dem oichel babayis, if they eat in the house, af she'ein delekes ad alayla, even if it's not delekes, if the ner is not delekes ad alayla, sagi. V'lo have a bracha levatol. Why not? So listen closely to these words. Sha'af sha'adayin yoim, even though it's still day, yesh lo hanoah v'simcha, you have a certain pleasure from the candles, b'shas achila min haneros. There's a certain pleasure that the candles give you that other lights don't give you. The shemesh v'yoreach, right? If you eat by the sunlight or by the moonlight, it doesn't give you the same feeling, right? In fancy restaurants, they have these candles lit on tables. It creates a certain atmosphere. It's geschmack to eat on a candle at dinner. Neiros add hanoah v'simcha to achila. And that's why, even if there's sunlight coming in through the windows and it's not completely dark, there's still a certain amount of hanoah that you're getting from the candles when you lit them. Although it's not dark yet, and you'll never have hanoah from it when it's dark, but there's still a certain amount of hanoah you get from candles, from neiros, that because of it deserves a bracha. And this is the chiluk between the Mechaber before and the Mechaber now. The Mechaber before is talking about when you have two women. The first woman lights candles, right? So you have candles already. You have candles on the table. And now the second woman comes and lights another pair of candles. So her candle is only Tesefes Oyer. Whereas the Sif Tes, the Mechaber discusses where you had no candles yet. You had another means of light. You had the sun shining through the window. So you had that type of light. But the hanoah v'simcha that candles give you, that you didn't have yet. And therefore it's not a bracha levatol. The same can be said, perhaps you could suggest, the same can be said if, let's say, you're in a room, right, and the lights are shining bright, fluorescent or whatever type of bulb you have, but it's still not the same. It's not the same hana of a simcha that you have when you eat at a table that candles are lit at that table. It gives a certain pleasure, gives a certain hana, a certain atmosphere created. It's Chavod Shabbos. And therefore, although we light candles while the light is on, while you have regular lights shining bright in the room, nevertheless, one should still make a bracha on the candles per se, because the candles add a certain amount of hana v'simcha that you don't have from electricity. And therefore deserves a bracha. Just like the Mechaber says that if you light candles during the day, and by the time it's dark, the candles are out, you make the bracha. And the svar is because b'neiris yesh hana v'simcha b'shas achila, which the sun doesn't provide. Electricity doesn't provide that type of hana which neiris provide. But if you have already neiris from someone else that someone else lit, and you're coming and lighting another few neiris, that's already machlekes Mechaber and Ramah. That's already a new subject. That's Tosefes Third. The Mechaber says that you don't make a bracha. You already have that hana v'simcha. You have that neiris. You have those neiris. That's l'chayra. One of the terutzim you could say why in Melamed Zchus, how can we light candles while the room is already lit from the electricity. Now, it is recommended, boys can do say to do that, and some people do that. It's recommended because of this problem that one should shut the lights before they light the candles and turn it on the Chavod Shabbos. Turn it on the Chavod Shabbos, light the candles, and make a bracha. Some boys can say to do that. Some boys can say to do that. Turn it off and turn it on the Chavod Shabbos, and then light the candles. So it's all one big hadlaka. It's like you're lighting one candle, then the other candle, then the other candle. You make a bracha at the end. Then you'll just shut the lights, you light it, right? And you say the Chavod Shabbos, and then you continue lighting the candles, and then you make the bracha. According to us, according to Ashkenaz, we make the bracha afterwards. That's what many places can recommend to do because of this problem. But if you don't worry about it. There is a limit zchus of why we are noyig to light candles in a lit room already anyway. Okay. Now, by the way, if you can be yoitzo adlakas neiros with electricity, we'll talk about that maybe tomorrow. But just the last few minutes, I want to get involved in another shaila that comes up, very relative to bachrim that are not married, and also married people that leave home for Shabbos. What's the halacha with bachrim or married people that are not home for Shabbos? Usually, you're home for Shabbos, your parents light for you, your mother lights for you, or your wife lights for you. But what if you're not home for Shabbos? Now, this question requires a short introduction, and then we'll get to the point. The introduction that I want to introduce first, before the answer, is that we saw there are two reasons why one lights candles. Hadlakas neiros. One is shalom bayis, shlei koshel be'etz ve'evan. A person should be lit, shouldn't trip. Once you trip, you get into a bad mood, and the whole atmosphere in Shabbos is ruined. So make sure that you have light on Shabbos. Now, this reason, by the way, doesn't require you to go and light. If the room is lit by any other means, it's already enough. The point of Chazal, that you should light candles because the room should be lit, shlei koshel be'etz ve'evan, you shouldn't trip over an eitz or an evan, wasn't that you should have to light. You should go and light candles. That wasn't the takana. The takana was that the room should be lit. It's a chayvus habayis. It's not a chayvus hagavra. Chayvus habayis, the bayis should be lit. Now, if the bayis is lit any which way, if you had the light on from Thursday night, even if it wasn't turned on the Chavod Shabbos, it's enough because there's no svar shlei koshel be'etz ve'evan. But then there's another chiyuv for adlakas neiros Shabbos. What's the second chiyuv? The second chiyuv is because covered on Shabbos, right? And that chiyuv, Chazal will mechayiv each and every one of us to light candles before Shabbos. That's already a chayvus aguf. That you should light candles. Covered Shabbos requires you to light candles for Shabbos. Now, why don't we all light candles for Shabbos? Because Chazal will keveya that although it's a chayvus aguf, but you could be yotze with your mother's adlaka, or you could be yotze with your wife's adlaka, you could be yotze with the person you're staying by, with your balabayas or the balasabayas, wherever you're eating, and they're like a shliach for your chayv. You have a chayv, and when you're eating there, you're samach shulchan acherim, or you're married, your wife can light for you. Now, there's a big enough community between the two. For example, let's say you're staying somewhere else. You're not in the same house as your parents or your wife. You're away for Shabbos. So now, your wife is going to light for you, so you're makayim the chayvus aguf, because she's your shliach. But if you're going to stay in a room which is totally dark, completely dark, it's not going to help me that you have a chayvus aguf, you're makayim the chayvus aguf, because you still have the other obligation of chayvus habayis. Wherever you're staying, it has to be lit. The room has to be lit, right? Shlei koshel be'etz ve'evan. So, you're right, you're going to be Mekayim the Chayvus HaGuf through your wife, Ishtek HaGufa, and she can be Mekayim the Hadlaka for you, the Chayvus HaGuf. But what about the second Chiv, the Chayvus HaBayis? If you're going to stay in a totally dark room, the problem is you're Shlei Kosh L'Beitz V'Evan, so you have to light because of that reason. And what if, where you're staying, the room is lit, but your wife isn't lighting for you? No one else is lighting for you. So again, you're Mekayim the Chayvus HaBayis, but you still need to light. There's a Chayvus HaGuf that you have to go light in the Kavod Shabbos. So there are two independent reasons which could be a major nafkamina l'halacha, and you have to keep both of those reasons in mind when you make a decision. You're trying to decide: do I have to light candles this Shabbos, or don't I have to light candles this Shabbos? There are two things. There are two different things. There are two different reasons what you should take into account when you decide when you want to be posik such a halacha. So, for example, let's give an example. Let's say you go away for Shabbos. You go away for Shabbos, and you're staying in a room, and the room is pretty much lit. There's a closet, in the closet there's light, and you have light, there's no svar shlei kashel be'etz v'evan. Do you have to light candles in the Kavod Shabbos? Depends. Is someone lighting for you already? Because although there's a chayvus, the chayvus habayis is gone because you have a lit room, there's no svara of kashel be'etz v'evan, you're already secure. But what about the chayvus haguf? Is someone else lighting for you? So then you have to take into account. If someone else is lighting for you, if your wife is lighting for you at home, your parents are lighting for you, so then you're a potter. Then you don't have to light. But if no one else is lighting for you, so although the room is lit because the light is on in the bathroom or in the closet, in the toilet in the closet, nevertheless you still have to light because the chayvus haguf.
And how does that svara work? Because if the whole point is for Oneg Shabbos, then how will it help if you're in London and someone's lighting for you in Manchester? How's it going to enhance your Oneg Shabbos?
Right. I'm talking about where you have light in the room. If you have light in the room lit already, let's say you turned on the light in the closet Thursday night, and now it's Erev Shabbos and you're deciding, should I light candles or not? So if you have already light, you already have some sort of light, so the only chiyuv you're left with is Kavod Shabbos. Mishum Kavod Shabbos Chazal mechayev you to go ahead and light. So that chiyuv could be taken care of by somebody else. If you made a shliach for someone else, if let's say your wife lights for you at home, so she could be a shliach for you, she'll be mekayim that chayv. What about Oneg Shabbos or Yikosh L'Beitz V'Evan? You have light. We're talking about you have light in the room. There's already some sort of light, but you didn't go ahead and light that the electricity, whatever it is, l'Kavod Shabbos. It's already lit somehow.
So you can mekayim the mitzvah of Kavod Shabbos even through someone else, and it's not even going to change your Shabbos whatsoever. Because
Right. Mishum Kavod Shabbos. That's the gather Chazal gave, that although you're mechuyev Mishum Kavod Shabbos to light, nevertheless someone else could take care of that chiyuv if you have someone else. So, for example, if you're away for Shabbos and there's already light in the room, that's what we're talking about right now. There's already light in the room, so there's no yikoshel be'etz v'evan, so you already have light, and someone else is lighting, taking care of the chayvus haguf, so you're part of madlakas neiros. But if you don't, and many times you won't be able to be potter because of someone else lighting for you. So then the halacha is you do have to light. You do have to light. What about bachram in yeshiva? Bachram in yeshiva. In dormitories, this is very common. What should they do? So, mishum chayvus habayis, because you koshel be'etz v'evan, that really is a problem. Because when you open the door, as soon as you open the door, you already have light shining through the hallways. That's already a problem. That's already taking care of the problem of koshel be'etz v'evan. But mishum chayvus haguf, this is already debatable. A big debate in the Paiskim whether you considered samach al shulchan aviv or imay, that your mother should be able to exempt you from the chayvus haguf. Because you're in yeshiva. Right now you're in yeshiva and you're eating from the yeshiva's food. So you're right, your father pays tuition, whatever it is. So perhaps there's a separate chiyuv in yeshiva for you to light. And therefore, the person who lights in yeshiva, the designated person who lights, should have kavana when he lights, not to have in mind, not to be yoitzer with his parents at Lokam. He doesn't want to be yoitzer with the parents at Lokam. He wants to light on his own. And he will be motzi everybody in yeshiva. One person lights in the cheder oichel, and he's motzi everybody in yeshiva to take care of that chayvus haguf. But again, you have to always take into account those two things, chayvus habayis and chayvus haguf. The chayvus habayis is shlei koshel be'etz v'evan, and usually you have that problem taken care of because you have electricity somewhere shining through the cracks of the door or the window, and that takes care of that problem. But the other problem, which is more difficult to take care of, is the chayvus haguf, and therefore it's recommended if you're away and you're not sure if you're being already yoitza with someone else at Laka, make sure that you have in mind not to be yoitza with your parents or your wife's at Laka, then you could light on your own. Seder.